Welcome to Essentials, the series where we try to understand the unrest in the West. I'm Carver Benson.
And I'm Carly Jensen. Today we're unraveling the mysteries of Trumponomics 2.0, Trump's economic playbook if he returns to the White House.
It's a bold plan packed with promises: fighting inflation, strengthening the dollar, slashing taxes, boosting government spending, and cutting the federal deficit.
Sounds like a lot. But does it all add up? Or are there contradictions baked into the strategy? Stick with us because we're breaking it all down in less than 7 minutes.
Let's start with tariffs. Trump plans to ramp them up, especially on Chinese imports. Carly, how do tariffs actually work?
Tariffs are taxes on imported goods. The idea is to make foreign products more expensive, encouraging people to buy American-made alternatives.
So tariffs protect American jobs. Win-win, right?
Not so fast. Tariffs raise costs for businesses and consumers. During Trump's first term, tariffs added about $80 billion to costs and drove up prices for everyday items like electronics and clothing.
Inflation's already high. Won't more tariffs just add fuel to the fire?
Exactly. Higher tariffs can push prices up, making it harder to fight inflation. It's a bit like saying you're cutting calories while ordering extra fries.
And here's the kicker. Trump also wants a strong U.S. dollar.
That's another contradiction. A strong dollar makes imports cheaper, which could cancel out the impact of tariffs. So you'd have the higher taxes without the same level of protection for American industries.
Next, let's talk about taxes. Trump wants to lower them further, building on his 2017 tax cuts, which slashed corporate rates from 35% to 21%. Lower taxes are popular, but they come at a cost. The 2017 cuts added about $1.5 trillion to the federal deficit over a decade.
And now he's proposing more spending on defense, infrastructure, and reshoring industries. Where does that leave the deficit?
In a pretty tough spot. The federal deficit already hit $2 trillion in 2023, and the Congressional Budget Office projects that level will continue annually. Adding tax cuts and spending makes it hard to see how he'll reduce the deficit as promised.
Unless he makes deep cuts to programs like Social Security or Medicare.
Which he's vowed not to touch. So again, the math doesn't add up. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in it.
Carver, let's get into inflation and monetary policy. Trump says he wants to bring inflation down. How does that fit with everything else?
Not easily. Inflation is a tricky beast, and policies like tax cuts and increased spending usually raise demand, which can push prices higher.
So more government spending and lower taxes could make inflation worse.
Exactly. The Federal Reserve, meanwhile, is focused on fighting inflation by raising interest rates. Trump has criticized the Fed in the past for these hikes.
If he pressures the Fed to cut rates, wouldn't that weaken the dollar?
It would. Lower rates make the dollar less attractive to investors, which could undermine his strong dollar policy.
So, another contradiction: strong dollar, low rates, and low inflation. That's like trying to juggle 3 water balloons without getting wet.
Speaking of the dollar, let's look at its role in global trade. A strong dollar makes imports cheaper for Americans, but makes U.S. goods more expensive for foreign buyers.
So farmers, manufacturers, and tech companies selling abroad could struggle.
Exactly. And with tariffs in the mix, you get this push-pull dynamic. Tariffs aim to make imports less competitive, but a strong dollar works against that goal.
It's like stepping on the gas and the brakes at the same time.
Trump's plan hinges on 3% GDP growth to make the numbers work. Is that realistic?
It's optimistic. The Federal Reserve estimates long-term U.S. growth at about 1.82%. Factors like an aging workforce and slower productivity gains make higher growth tough to achieve.
What about immigration?
Good point. Trump's stricter immigration policies reduced the labor force during his first term. Without enough workers, it's hard to boost growth significantly. Fewer workers mean fewer people to pick crops, build houses, or care for the elderly. It also drives wages and prices up, which is the opposite of fighting inflation.
So growth isn't the magic wand here?
Not unless there's a major productivity revolution or a dramatic policy shift.
So, Carly, what's the verdict? Trumponomics 2.0, genius or gamble?
It's a bit of both. The focus on American jobs and industries resonates with voters, but the contradictions, tariffs fueling inflation, tax cuts and spending driving deficits, are hard to ignore.
I'm less positive. All these contradictions make it hard to deliver good results. For me, it sounds like, let's fix the hole in the boat, while drilling another hole to let the water out.
Ha! Well said. That's it for today's Essentials. What do you think of Trumponomics 2.0? Is it a bold vision or risky business? Let us know in the comments.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you next time as we tackle more big ideas, explained simply.